I guess, thinking about the Innovators agenda, there are so many things right now in travel retail what we are basically reacting on. And I think when it comes to all these influences which we are having around us, which we have in our travel retail economy, have to react on daily, we should really figure and ask ourselves, what is actually on this agenda, and what do we need to prioritize in a certain way, right? Because there is a big difference on things we need to react on in our business to things we actually can influence. Yeah? And this is, I think, the main question when we are talking about technology, when we are talking about the Innovators agenda. So I've been building a little bit of let's say, a framework where we say, on the one hand, how high is the actual potential of disruption of a certain shift, for example, and on the other hand, how high is our ability to influence that, right? Because ultimately there's so much going on, and I think we really need to focus coming from that high level. Now, there are several things out there happening which are mostly sad, pretty much things we also have to react on, but ultimately they do not really have the potential for disruption within our industry. And we've seen that among pandemics or wars in the past, and also current, which do affect our business, but they do not affect the general growth of our industry. But there are two things which have quite a high potential for disruption. And the good news is they also, like we all, have the ability to influence those. Yeah? So to work on those, and this is technology and the consumer shift. So this session is mainly about technology. It's mainly the next 15 minutes about not only these big buzzwords of AI, because I really think it's not done by giving your employees ChatGPT or hiring a senior executive in AI. It is really the question of how do you implement these technologies into your business, and this is what I want to speak about. In order to do so, I created a little bit of an overview, an overview of use cases which are technologically driven, right? Use cases which have a bottom line impact to retail business, use cases which have a top line impact into our business, so bottom line such as AI workforce management or let's say inventory management. And also in the top line, we see so much technology having really short, small impact, but on many, many elements. And those are just examples, right? There are so many of different use cases where we see technology influencing our business. And in particularly, I would like to give you one of these as an example, which is agentic commerce. Because agentic commerce is kind of combining, on the one hand, a technology shift, and on the other hand, already a consumer shift, right? So, in fact, probably most of us, if we are buying a new product, if we are purchasing, we are already talking to large language models, talking to ChatGPT or to Google's large language model, basically, in order to, do this purchasing decision. Yet, the companies we are working for, the supplying companies, as well as the retailers, the majority of advertising spend is still going into social media and into classical search engine optimization, whereas the consumer already moved beyond, right? So the consumer is already using ChatGPT in order to, discover a new product, while the marketing spend is still in the old habits. And in order to give you a little bit more of a detailed picture of where we are standing when it comes to agentic commerce and how the potentially also for our industry is, I want to share this slide, which is basically showing where are we coming from, the traditional way of digital shopping, which is kind of also physical shopping, which is kind of being inspired by social media and so on. We are today at a stage where we are already interacting a lot with large language models, interacting with artificial intelligence in order to get, in this discovery process. Now, the US, interestingly, is already a little step ahead of that, because in the US, it's already enabling in-app purchases, meaning, for example, Walmart is integrated into ChatGPT in the US, so you can not only get, your shopping list from ChatGPT, you can also, within the interface of ChatGPT, click purchase, and you get your whole order. And what we see long term, what we will see long term, is that there will be way more agent-to-agent communication, so the human will be taken out of the loop, particularly when it comes to day-to-day product purchasings, right? And this is, in a way, a good thing. Wait a bit, because I'm coming back to travel retail in a second. It's in a way a good thing because shopping or the discovery within LLMs has a higher conversion rate and it creates higher baskets than in traditional digital media, than, for example, in social media or in search, classical search engine optimization, so SEO, right? And what we believe is that this will create also a shift in buying behavior. Because the day-to-day products, and you see the commerce today and the commerce tomorrow on the right side, the buying behavior will shift into something where we will see that day-to-day products will be purchased in the artificial intelligence, in the LLM model right away. Whereas on the other hand, like experience-driven products, let's take, for example, if we are buying a new running shoe or if we are buying a product which we want to bring home to our beloved ones, will still drive in-store sales. We see one of the biggest potential losers of this trend will be marketplaces, e-commerce marketplaces, and one of the potential biggest winners of this trend is brick-and-mortar business. Those businesses who today do not have any digital extension and can use like large language models in order to digitally extend their business. So late last year, I've been in San Francisco and I talked to some guys from OpenAI who mentioned that travel is among the top 3 use cases when it comes to any kind of given search within ChatGPT, right? So it's kind of an obvious example to ask, what if I, today ask ChatGPT, I have to bring something to my wife, to my kids when I'm coming from Singapore back home, right? And most probably, ChatGPT would not link me to an airport at all today. Most probably, it would link me to some kind of downtown store where I can purchase some kind of Singaporean classic product. If it would link me to the airport, it would probably link me to some kind of categories, saying, you can purchase something at the airport in some kind of given categories. But what we actually want is the exclusivity we have in our marketplace. What we actually want is we want to have the storytelling we have in duty-free and in this very special marketplace already online, in order to get me, in that case, to do a purchasing decision before I even went to the airport, right? So what do I bring? Do I bring a special bottle of whiskey? Do I bring a special Toblerone or a special product? It is something where we see consumer behavior shifting into large language models, and it's a no-brainer to basically use these models in order to drive a little bit of the top line in travel retail. And obviously, travel retail is a very much impulse-driven kind of marketplace, impulse-driven purchasing behavior, and I'm very sure it will stay like that. But in travel retail, as a follower industry, we will see that even small innovations can, drive slightly top lines, and if we scale them across our market, they will have impact. Particularly in agentic commerce, I think this will be even more relevant when we are getting from AI being a co-pilot like today to AI really becoming agentic, because at one point AI will know, basically where you are, what your buying preference is, what your favorite brands are, maybe when your birthday is, and so on. So it will automatically also do the right recommendations and lead you potentially to the best Heinemann store and buy the best whiskey, for example, if I see the faces here in the audience. And I think the question we should ask ourselves is, is your guy's brand one of the suggested brands which ChatGPT or any kind of other given LLM, is your brand among those, or is it somebody else's brand? Now, this was just one example out of so many use cases we are having when we are seeing technology influencing our marketplace. And I think technology is by far on top of the innovators' agenda for sure. In the next chapter, I would love to discuss a little bit how do we actually apply it to our business. So in the past 5 years, together with Gebrüder Heinemann, I probably experienced all different kind of tools of innovation. I did not experience M&A though. Why? Because M&A is primarily being used in travel retail in order to to widen the footprint, to add another offer to your current business, to buy a brand when you're a supplier. It's not being used for technological resilience because our market is simply too small. It doesn't make sense for a travel retailer or for a certain brand to buy a technology which supports technological resilience in our market. Yet, we did have experiences in partnerships, particularly in joint ventures, with smaller companies, with bigger companies, with competitors. We did all sorts of things in terms of partnerships, and we learned that partnerships are a great tool when it comes also here to expand the offer, but they are not a great tool for technological resilience because they are just too long-term, right? Digital innovation is another great example of a tool of innovation, of how you can implement innovation into your business. But it's very much tender-driven, and we all know that the biggest chunk of innovation in travel retail happens when a new tender is coming, and in between these tenders, it's getting slightly less. Venture building is a beautiful tool of innovation, which we tested as well. Fazit is too time and cost intense to really implement businesses because you are dependent on the airport side sales cycles in our industry. So long story short, venture clienting is the tool where you can adapt technology within our industry, cost and time efficient, and get very quickly to a proof of concept. I'm jumping one slide, I'm getting back in a second. So venture clienting, what is it? It's basically the collaboration between corporates and startups or just simply young technology companies. Now, why is this so important? Why is it so important to watch for the young companies when it comes to technological innovation? It is because technology evolves at an exponential rate, right? So it evolves exponentially, whereas organizations evolve at a logarithmic rate. So there comes a gap of innovation between those two worlds, right? So in order to close this gap of innovation, it's ultimately super important to work with companies who are being built just, on this logarithmic curve and not somewhere else, because only those can really, adopt these technologies. Now, in the next phase, we now know venture clienting is a great tool to implement technology into your business, right? In this next phase now, I'm giving you an exemplary process on how to do so, right? So what do we do for example, in collaboration with Gebrüder Heinemann? We first start with a problem discovery phase. We are understanding pain points from the organization, we are defining KPIs, we are having a problem statement. Ultimately, it's leading to a briefing which supports us in really understanding where the pain point lies. Then Garage Ventures comes into play and kind of scans the startup ecosystem, evaluates the fit via due diligence and kind of pre-selects the best-in-class startups in order to solve a certain pain point. And then you start into a very cost and time efficient, again, POC, which helps you to understand if this is actually influencing top or bottom line of your business, and ultimately leading to the question, should you scale it within your business or not? And just to be sure about that, because I see some photos here. After a POC, my gut feeling or experience is it's probably less than 50%, way less than 50% to make it into the scaling phase. So don't expect that everything you test will work and will automatically support your business. I'm going to give you one hands-on example from our collaboration with Gebrüder Heinemann, which is not agentic commerce because we're working on it, but we are not there yet to present it in this audience, which is a collaboration with a company called File AI, right? So with File AI, we've been working on the whole topic of sales and supply chain reconciliation. And the idea was to have like an AI tool in order to match delivery orders and invoices, which every retailer in this audience, and particularly Heinemann here, knows probably very, very well. So Garage has been kind of getting this briefing, understanding the pain point. There was an internal alignment about that, and we've been screening the market for different solutions and ultimately created a POC, a proof of concept, a 3-month POC with a company called File AI, which led to a great lever in bottom line, so cost savings in the bottom line, and ultimately currently is in a phase where we will scale innovations, artificial intelligence innovations like this. So back to the overview here. Yeah? The only way to really implement artificial intelligence or other technologies into your business is by use case for use case for use case. Yeah? It's not by massive strategies, it's by testing and learning and slowly adapting to these new technologies. And what GHARAGE Ventures basically does is, GHARAGE Ventures is your profitable engine which supports you in basically finding the right solutions in any kind of these, now here, exemplary solutions. Yeah? Now, Frank mentioned in the beginning that GHARAGE Ventures is restructured as a venture capital fund. And the next 4 or 5 slides explain basically why we did so and who we are today. So GHARAGE Ventures is a venture capital fund. Yeah? It's coming from traditional investing. Why? To create a profitable flow of innovation. It's anchored and it's also initiated by Gebrüder Heinemann. I mean, we are rising out of being the CVC and this innovation platform of Heinemann. And we have, I think, quite some experience gains through corporate development and also understanding how these innovation processes work. I mean, you've just seen how many examples from different tools we had. The fund is based here in Singapore and it's regulated by the Monetary Authority of Singapore. We have offices in Germany and here in Singapore, and there was also an active focus when it comes to innovation on Central Europe and Southeast Asia. Whereas as a fund with a vertical integration to travel and trade and not a geographical frame, we also see a lot of innovation from the US or from the Middle East, for example. So we will see a total fund size of 40 million euro with around 10 investors, and we will also have a second closing by end of this year, open for the extended partners of Heinemann, so probably many here in the audience. So how can venture capital become a strategic platform? And maybe we stick in the very first step to the middle pillar here. Yeah? So venture capital or a platform, any kind of given platform, is very much about what can you deliver and what do you get in return. So for us, what can we deliver to startups? We can deliver value beyond just capital, right? We are investing into startups, but we are also giving access to the industry, and we are building synergies among our investors. So it's a quite interesting vehicle for startups to join, which is also the reason why we are getting into many deals. And for investors, they will expect a certain level of return, which currently is on track to 3 to 5x of returns. But they also get a source of innovation, and they have the potential to not only build small POCs among each company, but collaboratively create potentially even industry standards in terms of technology. Which is why we are building on investors from different categories, and then in return, we give a return of investments, we give innovation, and we build a platform to exchange. It is a two-sided profit center in a way. On the one hand, we are seeing venture capital as a passive profit center because it drives innovation within the corporates, which then basically support our investors in order to create cost savings in the bottom line, for example. So we are seeing all sorts of innovations among airports and the travel industry, so solutions which are steering innovation towards these players. We are seeing solutions that revolutionize retail and logistics, and ultimately solutions which increase operational efficiency, so kind of relevant for any kind of industry partner we are having. But on the other hand, we are having a typical co-investment strategy, which leads us to also being profitable ourselves, not only bringing profits to our investors, by co-investing alongside the Tier A, Tier 1 venture capitalists of the globe. So how do we drive innovation? And I'm coming slowly to an end here. First of all, we are giving access, and you can imagine this access tool like we are probably seeing 1,000 startups annually. And out of these 1,000 startups, 0.5% maybe are relevant to us as an investment, whereas 30% of these startups are relevant to our investors to collaborate with them and to innovate with them, right? Additionally to that, we are doing active introductions, so adoptions basically, for the LPs because we are very firm to their pain points. And last but not least, we are supporting them throughout their innovation journey. Last but not least, venture capital acts as a strategic radar. Being in venture capital means you are really at the forefront of what's happening technology-wise, and it's very, I think, let me put it in a different way. We are a thesis-driven fund, right? So we are building our theses around agentic commerce, as just mentioned, as one example. We are building our theses around automation or around this new era of GEO. And I think these reports and these insights we are gathering throughout those are very helpful to build your technological strategy as an investor. So high level, what's important for us? Yeah? I think it's important that we understand to tackle technology case by case. Second, it's important to understand that this tool of innovation we are using, in best case, is venture clienting. And lastly, probably Garage is a great engine to fill your pipeline of innovation. Thank you very much.
So, Lennard, thank you for this impressive presentation and explaining us how the innovation processes are working at Garage. Now, we're going to deep dive a little bit and to understand exactly how these innovations are hitting the market for the travel retail.
Yeah.
Because we see some example like in the banking with Revolut or in the automotive with Tesla or even entertainment with Netflix. All these have been totally disrupted by digital technology. So why do you think that travel retail remain resilient to this innovation?
Well, I think when you're looking into the digital economy, it did not really change how humans act, right? So we are still eating, and we are still driving taxi, and we are still dating, and we are still watching movies. The only thing what happened is we are doing everything way more efficient now. Yeah. Dating becoming more efficient, ordering food, watching movies, and so on. But it did not really change what we do, right? So ultimately, when we are entering an airport, it's entering a physical journey which yet has not, been influenced by these digital efficiency drivers, right? And this is probably changing within the current technology life cycle because, as the name says, automation has something to do with robotics, which is acting in the physical space. IoT means Internet of Things, yeah? It's a physical space. Biometrics, we are all seeing biometrics already within our marketplace. So I think within this next technological wave, we will see way more influence into physical spaces such as airports. Yeah?
So for you, the walk-through business model with price advantage is still the one that travel retail should continue to foresee?
Well, I think this is, you cannot give a holistic answer to that because obviously in some markets price advantage is heavily relevant, and in some other markets price advantage is maybe secondary. In some markets also the walkthrough is a great store concept, right? I think for me the main goal should be to create digital extensions to our basic business model. And interestingly, right, we're having customers in our marketplace, and getting them earlier into the journey through, for example, agentic commerce is a great opportunity.
So you showed us here how AI also is helping people or influencing people to discover products and help them in their buying procedure. So do you think still the physical retail has its word in this world?
I think it has a bigger potential than ever. Ultimately, I think when we're looking into day-to-day products, as mentioned, I think they will be automated when it comes to the purchasing behavior. But I truly believe that brick and mortar retail has a high potential when it comes to certain assortments, specifically like impulse-driven buying, which we have at the airport. Yeah.
So how can we do to make them adopt all this new technology? Because it appears to be that the real limitation is not the technology, it's there, but it's our willingness or our capacity to adopt them.
Yeah, I think I kind of tried to answer this in my charts. Yeah, adoption of technology will not work by trying to create holistic, AI strategies or something. It will only work coming from pain points from, our operations, basically. And if we understand where we can optimize our core operations, we will automatically start innovating. And this is my true belief that venture clienting is a great tool. Yeah? Collaboration with startups is a great tool in order to do this quite cost and time efficient.
Speaking about operation, we had a discussion once about the automation process. We were talking about automatic cooking and luggage system. So how much of this can we today adopt, really?
I think this is an interesting one. If we take, for example, automated cooking, right? The question is, I think most probably humanoid robots will solve that, because I think it's too cost intense to change a whole kitchen into an automated kitchen. It will be way more cost efficient in order to just exchange the human by a robot. And the robot can work 24 hours and do so much more things. So I think when it comes to automation of physical processes, we do see some processes in airports, for example, which most probably will be automated throughout the whole value chain. But then there are others where I think just the human will be at one point exchanged to a humanoid robot. Yeah.
So
hard reality.
Just as in the session before, we were happy not to have only robots because we were having mic problems and things like this. So implementation is still a complexity.
Well, absolutely. Implementation is a complexity, and I think we should also just be aware that the failure rate is high, right? The expectation that everything works is just not happening. Yeah. And I think when we are looking into this adoption of AI, for example, yeah, in simple use cases such as inventory management or agentic commerce, what I just mentioned, or the document processing tool, if you don't start today with implementing these cases, in 2 years of time you will see your competitors being far away with their offers because they will be able to offer cheaper because they started to implement AI earlier on. So I think it's really about testing and learning as soon as possible, not building massive strategies, but really test and learn in order to create low impact, but on scale. Okay.
This brings me to my last question, Lennard. In fact, if you would look ahead 3 to 4 years, what will truly transform the travel retail?
In 3 years? I don't think that a lot will transform in travel retail. I think we still have a lot of, well, not massively, right? But I think we still have a lot of untapped potential. So if you imagine, I mean, we have billions of travelers running through our stores. And the main idea we are having is selling them whiskey and chocolate and a great other assortment of beauty products and so on, right? So I think what will change is that we will add new revenue streams on top of that, such as retail media, which from my perspective is still the most underestimated revenue stream in our industry. And I think with the rise of new revenue streams within our industry, we will also see automatically a different shift in how the contracts of travel retail work.
Okay, I took the 3-year principle because 3 years ago, we had ChatGPT for the first time, and when we see how fast it has been learning and developing, we now have the scale of time is reducing compared to previously about the adoption of the new technologies.
Yeah, but on the other hand, 3 years of time are unpredictable today, right? 3 years ago, we did not have wars in the Middle East. 3 years ago, we did not have fuel shortage. I think it's more than 50,000.
It's more poor management, isn't it?
It's what?
Poor leadership, no?
yeah, maybe we have AI as leaders then, and we don't face these problems anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lennard. It's one of the takeaways from this discussion is that, in fact, technologies are already there, and the real question is whether the industry is ready to adopt them. And so thank you very much, and I wish all of you then still a good day, and do not forget to fulfill our questionnaires in order to have the feedbacks that we need in order to continue to improve. Thank you so much for participating to this discussion.
Thank you.